She didn't tell me about the trip until the suitcase was already leaning against the door like a decision made without me. No calendar hold, no heads up, just a bright, brittle girls' weekend, and a smile that skimmed past my eyes. She kissed my cheek in passing, a glide, no contact, then checked the time as if affection were transit. She tugged the zipper, glanced at me, then at the hallway mirror, adjusting nothing while pretending to. That was the first performance where presence used to be. I texted you about it, she said, not landing on my stare. Her phone hovered like a shield, screen dark under a guarding thumb. I searched my messages and found nothing. My mouth formed a question that never made it out. By the door, her travel bag with essentials gaped open. On top, the red scarf for attention, a perfume atomizer, a paperback she never finishes. Beneath them, a thin blade of light, chrome flashing from the lining. Her silver lighter, the one she misplaced last month, slid into a side pocket with a practiced flick. My initials winked once and vanished. "You'll be fine, right?" she asked, halfway elsewhere. The tone was kind and clipped, like an FAQ answer. I nodded because nodding cost less than conversation. Outside, a car idled. "Not a rideshare, a friend," she said. Which friend didn't get a name? She lifted the suitcase, then let me carry it the final 2 steps, a ritual that once meant partnership. At the threshold, she squeezed my shoulder as if checking a doorknob. "Don't wait up," she added, throwaway. It landed heavy anyway. I wanted to ask the easy things, where, who, when. Instead, I watched details, the new polish she saves for events, the tightness at the corners of her mouth, the way her eyes skimmed the photo of us on the console like it belonged to people who only looked like we do. "You're quiet," she said, not curious. "I'm listening," I answered, to the scrape and click of choices being made in a room I apparently didn't own anymore. The trunk snapped shut. She pivoted back for one last look that wasn't a look, just an inventory. Keys, phone, wallet, me. The car pulled away. I watched the taillights wink out at the corner like a promise expiring. Inside, the silence wasn't empty, it was dense with the unsaid. On the console, I turned the framed photo face down, a small adjustment to match the new reality. There are rooms you can stand in that no longer include you. I poured water and didn't drink it. The glass sweated a ring onto the counter. On instinct, I checked the drawer where we keep small things that wander. Spare chargers, stamps, the lighter's empty box. The lid sat ajar, the velvet holding the outline of what should be there. I pressed my thumb into the felt, memorizing the hollow. Her last text arrived as I stared at the box. "Be back late, don't wait." No emoji. No detail. A timeline with edges left deliberately soft. I replied with a single word, "Okay," and watched it deliver. It felt like signing for a package I didn't order. I hadn't planned to wait. But as the day folded into night, the house started keeping time on its own. Every sound relabeled itself, pipes as footsteps, a distant car door as a decision. Near midnight, I sat on the couch she avoids now and saw the evening for what it was, a prelude. I wasn't living inside us anymore. I was waiting inside me. And 3 a.m., though I didn't know it yet, was already on its way. She came back 2 days later, her suitcase thudding against the hardwood as if to announce normalcy. The smile she wore was wide but shallow, like a stage prop that collapses if you touch it. I asked simple things, where they stayed, who was there, questions with no traps, no angles. Her eyes flicked sideways before she answered, like she'd practiced lines but forgot which version fit. "We stayed at Jenna's," she said quickly, then blinked, adjusting. "Or, part of the time. We kind of moved around." She laughed, too loud, too short. The sound wasn't warmth, it was deflection in disguise. "You don't trust me?" she asked suddenly, leaning on the counter as though interrogation had occurred. I hadn't accused her of anything. My words had been straight, but she heard them bent. "I didn't say that," I replied. Calm. But calm wasn't what she wanted. Calm denied her the sparring match she was braced for. Her jaw worked once before she shrugged, grabbed a glass, and filled it with water she didn't drink. That night, I noticed something else. She changed the password on her laptop. Not the gentle suggestion we used to share, a mix of our initials and numbers. Now the screen flashed rejection when I typed it in. "Just updating security," she said lightly when I asked. Her hand hovered too long over the lid, ready to snap it shut if I reached again. And then, the lighter, back on her dresser, gleaming as if it had never been gone. The initials were so polished they caught the lamplight like they were laughing. She didn't mention it, didn't explain how something, misplaced, turned up spotless. She set her perfume bottle beside it, casual, deliberate. At dinner, I asked how the food had been on the trip. She smiled tightly, then dropped her fork with a clink. Why the interrogation? She snapped, louder than the room required. My silence afterwards seemed to bother her more than my words. She filled it quickly, spinning stories about brunches, inside jokes, details I couldn't check. Her phone buzzed mid-sentence. She glanced, tilted the screen away from me, and said it was just Becca. She put it face down on the table, but her fingers tapped once, twice, against the back, a nervous tell she hadn't practiced out of herself yet. I excused myself to clear the dishes. She let me. Normally she'd call after me, something trivial to reassert control of the room. Not this time. Instead, I heard the faint scrape of her chair and the muffled chime of her phone unlocking. Later, in bed, she scrolled with the brightness turned low. The blue glow painted her face like a secret she was rehearsing alone. When she noticed me watching, she tilted the phone flat against her chest and smiled, slow, guarded. Go to sleep, she said, almost gentle. I turned over, not to rest, but to measure the silence. It was thicker than the dark, and the lighter on her dresser caught the moonlight through the curtains, reflecting back at me like punctuation to a sentence she hadn't spoken yet. Tax season forces truth to the surface. I spread envelopes on the dining table, W-2s, 1099s statements. She walked past, kissed the air near my temple, and said she'd be upstairs, answering a few messages. Her laptop lid clicked shut as I looked up. The lock sound was louder than it needed to be. In a plain envelope tucked among utility bills, I found a printout I didn't recognize. No letterhead, just a sleek app bank logo. Her name at the top. The balance wasn't huge, but the deposits were regular, 3 then 4 then 6, spaced like beats. The memo on one read, Retainer, we've both picked up side work before. It wasn't scandal, just new, and lately, new meant something. I held the page a beat, then set it flat. She came back down with her phone in hand, thumbs moving. I lifted the page so it wouldn't look like I'd been digging. Did you open something new? I asked, casual. She watched me first, measuring. Then she smiled the kind smile she uses to sand down an edge. Freelance, she said, pouring water and setting the glass beside the page without drinking. Short-term consulting. I told you about it. Maybe she had, between a suitcase and a muted call. I nodded anyway. Looks good, I said, meaning the numbers, not the story. Her gaze slid to the table. She eased the printout back into the envelope with her pinky guiding the corner like it might cut her. I'll keep those separate so I don't mess up your system. As I stacked the documents, her phone lit with a banner. Your verification code is... She tapped so fast the message evaporated. 2-factor, she said lightly. You know how it is. I do. I don't know why a code arrives during a few messages. She noticed the envelope had drifted toward me again. She reached for the silver lighter, engraved, polished, suddenly back in rotation. She set it on the envelope like a paperweight and gave a practiced half laugh. You're thorough. It's cute. Later, I took a second look at the memos. Retainer, initial, phase 2. Not brunch money. Steps on a map. Beside each was a sender's name I didn't know, 2 initials and a common last name. When I asked which firm it was, she tilted her head. A startup, she said. They need structure. I'm helping them tighten operations. It landed like a resumed bullet. It's small. I didn't want to bother you. Still explainable. People work. Projects begin. But edges showed. The welcome email was missing the branch info page. The deposit dates matched nights she'd been out, and the contact field was blank. When I pointed gently at the gaps, she touched my wrist. Light, administrative. You're spiraling, she said with a smile that didn't reach past her teeth. Trust me. Trust me used to be a bridge. Now it sounded like a password I hadn't been given. We finished sorting. She carried her glass to the sink, untouched. The lighter stayed on the envelope, catching the late light. I filed everything by date, placed hers on top, and told myself it was nothing. An account, a project, one more login in a year full of them. A door clicked upstairs. A few seconds later, another banner lit her phone on the counter, face down. Security alert, it read before the screen dimmed to black. I turned the lighter in my palm, felt the familiar weight, and set it back where she had left it, over what I wasn't supposed to see, keeping it still until the next shift in the room told me whose house this was. I got home later than usual, the street quiet. From the sidewalk I could see into the living room. TV paused, a glass of red on a coaster. She was in the corner of the couch, socks under her, phone tilted at the angle people use when a voice is for one person only. I didn't ring. I stood there a breath longer than necessary and heard it through the cracked window, her voice lowered into a warm register she reserves for wanting. "Hey, Cole," she whispered, the name landing with the confidence of repetition. On the coffee table, the silver lighter lay beside the wine, throwing off a cold glint each time her hand moved. She touched it while she listened, thumb finding the engraving like a habit. 3 times the lid clicked open and shut without a flame. I opened the door quietly. The latch made a small metal truth anyway. She turned the phone flat on her thigh, smile vanishing like a stage light cut. "Hey," she said, too bright. "You're late. Client call," I said, taking off my coat slowly, because speed would look like guilt. I walked toward the kitchen, not close enough to see the screen, close enough to catch the side button press that ends a call without goodbye. "Just talking to Becca," she added, eyes measuring what I'd heard. "Tell her I said hi," I said. Her phone buzzed once, muted, then again with a sharper ping she hadn't accounted for. For a heartbeat the screen lit with a gray circle and a single letter C. The preview flashed and vanished before she could flip it. Focus mode had filtered most things, but not that one. She saw me see it. The room paused. She lifted the lighter and rolled it between her fingers, eyes on mine like she could keep the moment nameless by refusing to speak it. "How was your night?" she asked, voice smooth over a crack. "Productive," I said. I sat on the arm of the opposite chair, leaving space visible. She unpaused the TV, volume low, pretending the room had been about that all along. The show filled the air until her phone lit again. This time the banner wasn't a name, it was a code. "Your sign-in confirmation is..." She flipped the device so fast it clicked against the table. "Two-factor," she said. "Work stuff. I've seen a lot of those lately," I said. She took a sip and didn't swallow right away. She set the glass down, aligning the base with the water ring as if neatness could keep the story straight. "I'm heading up," she said, standing a little too fast. The lighter stayed, lid half open like a thought that forgot to close. I didn't follow. I looked at the couch she'd warmed for someone else's voice. The room held a trace of the perfume she saves for being seen. Acceptance didn't arrive with thunder. It came like a dull click, the one I heard when I walked in. I wasn't suspicious anymore. I was bearing witness to a reallocation. Warmth had moved addresses. My name hadn't been forwarded. Her phone buzzed once more and then went still. A crack in the case caught the light the way the lighter did, 2 small beacons in a house that felt temporary. I put the lighter back where she'd left it, snug beside the glass, a marker for the next conversation I wouldn't be invited to. Upstairs the door closed. The TV washed the room in borrowed ocean. I let the sound run until the clock found another hour, and the outline of the next move settled. No scene. No speech. Just the quiet discipline of believing what I'd seen with my own eyes. It stopped being just personal when my phone rang with a client's voice on the other end, tentative. "Hey, did you mean for your wife to reach out on your behalf? She emailed from your account about a proposal." My grip tightened on the receiver. "What proposal?" He read lines that didn't sound like mine, offering discounted packages, personal introductions, signing with my digital signature at the bottom. I thanked him, promised to look into it, and hung up with my pulse steady but cold. That night, I checked the sent folder on my business email. Several messages had gone out without me, some to people I'd spent years building trust with. Each carried my name, my phrasing almost, but wrong at the edges. They pitched her as available for collaborations, as though she were an extension of me, when in reality she was cutting her own path through my network. When I asked casually at dinner if she touched my email, she didn't flinch. She wiped her mouth with a napkin and said, "I only responded for you since you were swamped. You should thank me." Her eyes stayed locked on mine too long, like daring me to push back. I didn't. Not then. Later, in my office, I noticed something even smaller, sharper. The silver lighter sat on my desk, precisely centered on a stack of contracts I'd left the night before. I hadn't brought it there. She had. A quiet reminder she'd been in my space, hands over papers that weren't hers. I slid the lighter aside and skimmed the contracts. No damage yet, but potential for plenty. She wasn't just testing boundaries at home. She was planting her initials over my livelihood, using my accounts, my tone, my reach. I reset passwords that night, new strings of numbers and symbols she couldn't guess. I rerouted notifications, flagged suspicious logins. At each step, I felt her shadow in the room, her presence lingering from when she'd set the lighter down like a stamp of permission. The next morning, she leaned in the doorway while I tied my shoes. "Rough night?" she asked, sipping coffee. "Just busy," I said. I watched her scan my briefcase like she expected to see documents she'd already touched. Her phone chimed in her pocket. She silenced it without looking, but the vibration buzzed long, like a reminder from somewhere I didn't belong. Work was no refuge anymore. At the office, a colleague asked gently if everything was okay at home. She'd overheard something about me pulling away from partnerships. My wife's words, not mine. The narrative was already out there, seeded. I smiled, deflected, and changed the subject. But inside, I traced the lighter's outline in my pocket where I'd slipped it that morning. Not as a keepsake, just proof of proximity. Proof she'd crossed another line. That night, when I placed it back on my desk, the engraving caught the lamplight again, initials shining like they belonged to someone else. I realized then, she wasn't just in my life, she was inside my name. And if I didn't move carefully, she could burn the whole signature down before I even struck a match. The quiet after I tightened passwords lasted half a day. Then my phone lit with concern that wasn't mine. A friend. Here if you need to talk. Another. Proud of her for setting boundaries. I hadn't told anyone anything. Someone else had, and she'd gone first. At lunch, a mutual sent a paragraph that sounded pre-written. I was stressed. I'd been distant. She was carrying the weight with grace. The cadence was hers. I typed a reply and deleted it. That evening she breezed in with casual ease. The silver lighter was in her hand, clicking open and shut without a flame. She leaned on the counter. I talked to a few people. We're going to get you support. Me? I asked. She nodded, voice soft. You've been overwhelmed. Everyone can see it. I framed it right so no one judges. They're on our side. While she talked, my laptop chimed. Recovery phone changed on a shared tool. The change didn't come from me. She continued unbothered. Also, I reached out to Marcus to smooth things with your client. You were coming off sharp. He agrees you need breathing room. She watched for a flinch. I didn't give her one. The lighter clicked again, lid up, lid down. Across the evening, friends chimed in like scheduled posts. One used the phrase she tried on me last week, matching energy. In the living room she set a stack of printed pages on the coffee table. Bullet points, phone numbers, a communication plan, with my name at the top. She'd pre-selected a counselor, a time, even a script, acknowledge, affirm, align. I picked up the top sheet. Along the margin she'd written notes I could hear in her voice. He'll resist, stay calm. Remind him of last quarter's stress. Next to it, if he escalates, bring up work calendar. My phone buzzed with a forwarded apology email I had sent that afternoon. Appreciate your patience while I handle personal matters. It read, signed with my name. I stared at the neat curve of my initials and pictured the lighter engraving polished to the same clean shine. At the router I saw the new network name she'd set, devices dropping and reconnecting under rules I hadn't approved. It wasn't just narrative capture, it was infrastructure. Say something, she urged, impatience seeping through the softness. Don't shut down on me. I squared the pages to the ring her glass had left. You moved first, I said. Her smile thinned. I had to. You weren't taking initiative. You're right, I said. She blinked, thrown by the absence of argument. The lighter paused mid-click. Tomorrow we'll tell your parents we're working on things. I drafted something for you to send. I pictured the folder I'd begun. Screenshots, timestamps, the retainer, deposits, security alerts, the couch where she softened her voice for someone named Cole. Her first strike hadn't wounded me, it had drawn the map. She kept the lighter in her palm, thumb on the hinge. This is for us, she said. I'm protecting our story. That line told the truth, just not the one she intended. Protection, in her version, meant authorship without witnesses. I stacked the pages. I hear you, I said. Upstairs, her tablet blinked. New device sign-in approved. She'd moved fast, but speed only matters if someone's chasing. I wasn't. I was marking exits. When she went to bed, she left the lighter on the coffee table, lid open. I closed it with one finger. The click said, she wasn't ahead. She was loud. I didn't announce it. I didn't rehearse speeches in the mirror. I spent a week assembling, steady hands on a quiet keyboard, building a record that didn't require my voice to convince. Screenshots, PDFs, verification codes, the hidden account statements, her messages under aliases, arranged in a timeline that no explanation could soften. One night when she left to meet Becca, I set the folder on the dining table. Black cover, neat spine, labeled only with her name. On top of it, the silver lighter, polished the way she liked it, initials catching the lamplight. Beside it, a single page. You left the flame burning in the wrong house. I didn't wait on the couch for her to walk in and find it. I wasn't interested in the theater of watching her face fall. I wanted her to face paper, not me. Evidence is colder, sharper, less forgiving. I slipped my essentials into a bag she wouldn't recognize as a departure. No suitcase by the door, no warning signs, just quiet subtraction. Her car lights swept across the wall around midnight. Keys in the lock, laughter still in her throat from wherever she'd been. I was already gone. At the table, she would see the folder first, structured, unflinching. She would flip through the deposits labeled retainer, the screenshots of chats where her tone softened for someone else, the logins tied to secret accounts. Each page a mirror she couldn't tilt away. I pictured her hand pausing at the lighter. Thumb on the lid, the instinctive click-click. Only this time, no flame. No warmth left to be struck. Friends who thought they were helping her would stop hearing from me. I didn't need to plead my side. I let her story run against the hard edge of records. The silence I left behind was its own confrontation. No raised voice, no slammed door. Just absence, sharper than argument. I imagined her upstairs, pacing with the folder open, the lighter heavy in her pocket, realizing the narrative she'd staged had been undercut before she spoke it. She might call. She might text. I'd already muted the channel. My confrontation wasn't dialogue. It was withdrawal of participation. The trap wasn't sprung with drama. It was sprung with clarity. She would see the proof lined up, immaculate, and know I hadn't believed her for longer than she'd realized. I didn't watch her discover it. I didn't need to. My presence had become unnecessary to the final act. The lighter, the folder, the note, those were enough. While she read, I was already miles away, the night road stretching clean, my phone dark, her name sealed behind silence. The confrontation wasn't my words. It was her reflection, inescapable, on paper. I woke in the new place to tidy notifications, access removed here, password changed there, one from the app bank, activity under review. Not a surprise. I'd sent their compliance desk a packet, deposits labeled retainer, origin accounts, and a note clarifying no services were contracted through my company and no permission existed to use my name. By noon, temporary hold place pending verification. The balance wasn't massive, but it was the confidence under her moves. I wrote one note to clients, 4 sentences. You may have received communications that didn't originate from me. Please disregard offers outside our signed agreements. I remained your point of contact. Thank you for your patience. Clarity closes doors. Her call started as I hit send. Then the long voicemail with rehearsed calm. You're overreacting, she said. You're hurting both of us. The folder had done its work. What I heard wasn't outrage. It was accounting. My attorney sent 2 letters, one ending every joint initiative, the other a polite demand to stop using my signature, name, or infrastructure. No accusations, just clauses she'd skipped. Paper doesn't need to raise its voice. Compliance asked. Confirm your business isn't associated with these invoices? I attached prior contracts, highlighted the absence of hers, and added a screenshot beside the line where she'd promised. Deliverables. The word looked small next to proof. Her text changed by the hour, gentle, clipped, suddenly nostalgic as if memory could substitute for receipts. We had plans, one read. We'll still do Paris, right? Not us, an itinerary. A mutual, before a chat was pruned, forwarded her line. He staged this to make me look irresponsible. The replies sounded thinner than usual. Day 3, the app bank again. Funds frozen for 30 days or until documentation provided. There was a link for appeal. Not my scramble. I left it in her court. What broke the last of the illusion wasn't a speech. It was an invoice reversal. The client who'd been retained requested a refund after I explained calmly that no contract existed with my firm and any promises made under my signature were void. The refund processed. Her balance shrank. The hum became a shake. I didn't gloat. I archived receipts. I marked each step with quiet verbs. Received, clarified, revoked, closed. A map without commentary. Her last text that week arrived at 3:07 a.m., the same hour the door had once opened and ended the old version of us. Can we fix this? She wrote. I can undo some of it. The word some did more work than she meant. It admitted there was a rest. On the shelf sat a small velvet box I'd packed by accident, the one that used to hold the silver lighter. I left the lid open and the space empty, not as a message to her, just a reminder to me. Absence can be intentional. By Friday, the edges were clean. The accounts she hid were stalled, the ventures launched on borrowed names paused, the introductions pushed through my signature closed. My business held because I kept it boring: contracts, boundaries, chronology. Hers tilted because it leaned on impressions. I didn't go back for the lighter. She can keep the engraving. I keep the quiet. Some fires don't require water. They end when you stop handing them kindling. Some fires burn themselves out when you stop feeding them.